All right, so we're gonna go back a little bit. I did know when I stopped at and stuff, so we're gonna resume where we had left off at, and we're going definitely gonna push it there. Battery went there. Okay, I know what I'm doing. My mama didn't raise no fool shit. I'm not worried. I said with a pout. I just got a lot on my mind these days, and I just hope that everything works out all right. I sat up and gave way to concern. Look, maybe you should call Jesse Ray again tonight, just so he knows you mean business. You can be pretty stubborn and exaggerating. You saw that by the one he dragged you around on the telephone. The insides of my thighs and crotch were still throbbing. I started massaging myself with both hands, but that didn't help. If anything, it made me ache even more. I told him I'll call him again tomorrow. Now, if you want this thing to work, you got to follow your own rules too. Wade pushes my hand away, started massaging me. That didn't stop the aching in my private area, but his hands felt a lot better to me than mine did. I don't trust JR. I know he said he wouldn't call the cops or tell anybody, but what if he does? Look, if he calls the cops and we found out about it at the time we split, Wade answered, pulling his hands away from my crotch. I got a Mexican buddy down in Mexican City that owes me some favors. We can hold up with him for now on if it comes to that. The law ain't no fond of him, so we wouldn't never have to worry about him blabbering. And Mexico is full of folks running away from something, so we feel right at home. And if it comes to that, Jesse Ray will get to keep his money, but he won't have you no more. As long as you don't slip up, he will never find you or find out what happened to you. For all he'll ever know, you're laying dead somewhere in the mountains. Now, do you think that man you marry wants to spend the rest of his life with that on his mind? Do you think he'll let something happen to you that he could have prevented? My husband loves me, I insisted, but I had to wonder just how much Jesse Ray loved me after the way he hemmed and hawed when Ray called him up. I wasn't sure anymore. Ray rotated his neck and brought his lips together with such a quick move they snapped shut like a corn purse, with his eyes on my face. With the look on his face so lifeless, you'll have thought that he was watching this year's most boring movie. He slid his tongue out and moistened his lip before he spoke again. Your husband loves you. Uh-huh. He muted, nodded, and is that why you're trying to cheat him out of $500,000? Wade laughed. I'm gonna go to chapter 5. I think we got a few pages. Yeah, we got a little something. We can squeeze in another chapter. Yeah, we're gonna do chapter 5 and then we'll take a break. Okay. I don't like it when people laugh at me, Wade. I pushed his hands away and gave him the dirtiest look I could imagine, but that didn't seem to faze him. He kept laughing. I wish you'd stop. I snarled, pinching the side of his arm. The two pillows that had been on the mattress were now on the floor, too flat and flimsy to be any use anyhow, so it didn't matter where they were. I propped my head up on my arm, with my cheek pressed against my elbow, breathing out of the side of my mouth. Wade had eaten the day-old sardines and oysters, but there was such a foul taste in my mouth it seemed like I've eaten some too. Then stop humoring me, he said, looking serious now. I signed a prenup, I said, in a low, hollow voice, holding back a blush of my own. You did what? One of the few things that I didn't like about this man was that I often had to tell him the same thing more than once. I couldn't remember how many times I have already told Wade I signed a prenup trial agreement. But I told him anyway. I signed a prenup agreement. If I divorce Jesse Ray, I get next to nothing. I've already told you that. For some mysterious reason, I had a feeling that this would be the last time I have to tell him this. I gave Wade a pleading look. I can't stay on with him the way things are. I cleared my throat, but it was still hard for me to continue speaking. Jesse Ray has changed his work, his family, and all come before me now. It wasn't always like that. I said hoarsely, Christine, you will get mad if I say something I probably shouldn't say. You are too late for that. So now you can say whatever you want, I said firmly, giving him a guarded look. I'm listening. Wade took a deep breath and then he let it out. He held his hands out towards me, palms up, and like he was about to do something I liked. He was one of the few men I knew who was good with his hands, but he didn't use them to do any erotic this time. He covered my hands with this. Baby, I know what I'm about to say is going to sound crazy for me, especially at this point in time. But if you couldn't stand living with your husband no more, couldn't you just move in with a girlfriend or go back home to your mama or something? Faking something as risky as kidnapping is pretty extreme. I didn't like the tone of Wade's voice. He sounded so serious and more than a little frightened. I gave Wade an exaggerating look and snatched my hand out of this. If you don't want me to go through with this, you need to decide now, I said sharply, panicking rising in me like a kite on a windy day. The more time we let pass, the harder it was going to be for me to talk my way out of this if we back out. If this what you really want, I'm still in. And baby Wade told me as long as I'm getting paid, I am going to stay in. I shook my head. I just okay. I shook my head. I just wanted to get this all over this as soon as possible. That's all. Wade's cell phone rang, but with the room being such a mess, it was hard to tell where the phone was. After 6 rings, it was located on the floor, tangled up with a jock strap under a mountain of dirty clothes. Yeah, he replied, holding up his hand in my face. Cool, we on the way. He tossed the phone on top of the sameness of the same mess and sucked in so much air he had to cough. There was a familiar look on his face. Satisfaction was too mild of a description. It was more like the look of rapture because it was haunting. It was a haunting look. His face darkened, his eyes and his lips trembled, and his nostrils flared. It was the same look I always saw on his face right after his thing, his stuff, erupted in me like a volcano. That was Jason Wade announced. The way his lips quivered, I was surprised that he could even talk. But the words came out trembling out of his mouth like rocks down on a mountain. My homeboy got us a motel room in his name, down at the San Pablo Avenue. To reach the dresser where he left his watch, Wade had to hop across the floor to avoid stepping on dirty plates. He was still naked, and it was a sight to watch his long, thick stuff swing back and forth like a, chandelier light. Go in my closet and pick out some of my shit to wear, he ordered, waving me into the closet in the corner by the door. He paused and looked around the room. And don't forget to put that cap on. Make sure to hide all your hair. He told me to slide his watch onto his wrist and under his breath about how cheap the watch was when he was going to get himself a Rolex with part of his ransom money. Put on my glasses and one of them jackets, he asked me, and loose one of your friends won't show. If we run into anybody, I don't know, you don't open your mouth unless you have to. If someone tries to make you talk or act like you from Brazil or Nigeria or some fucking foreign country, you don't speak English with the cap and them sunglasses, they might think you just another dude or just a downy bitch that don't want to know no way, no how. That's disguise her as a man. Even though Wade was obviously impatient, it took my time getting dressed and stuff. The $200 skirt and the $90 blouse